From the Patriot source, we're calling it out. 100 million ghosts and they're starting to shout. Iron curtain rusted, every promise gone cold. We won't trade our freedom for a lie dressed in gold. They tried it here, they tried it there. Same old chains, same cold despair. Not on our watch, not on our land. Here's where we draw it, here's where we stand. Only you can prevent it. Only you hold the line, never bend it. Never again, we won't back down. Only you can hold communism down.
Man, that song is so good. I played that song on the beach on Saturday. Yeah, on the beach, because my son's got a playlist that he plays, and it's like kind of like beachy Christian songs, and then we'll throw in the occasional, Viking song of like Knights of the Revival, and then I inserted that into the mix just because it's so good. Now that the fellas have created a back end version of it, I smashed it together, and it's part of my playlist for the beach now. Folks, happy Monday. I hope you guys all had an awesome weekend. I got a bit of a weekend update. If we can do that, we'll do that after we intro. How about that? So we've got some pretty important topics tonight, and we previewed a couple of them with you guys last week. We talked last week primarily about the language of the color revolution. We talked about how they are using their really effective techniques of brainwashing people to help drive this communist color revolution agenda. We talked about that. Today, we're going to spend a lot of time focusing on the Cuba report, the report that Marco Rubio and the State Department released on Monday of last week. It's about 100 pages long, so we're not going to go through the whole thing. I have some pretty cool little graphics that will kind of help steer the conversation. And then I don't know if you guys saw it or not today, but Moron Mamdani up in New York City launched his, I don't know, what do you call it? Government takeover of retailers in New York City. And he wants you to believe that this is going to solve the problem. It's not. It's going to make things exponentially worse.
My favorite part of the entire thing, I know we're going to get into it, but could you imagine paying taxes for something and then having to go and pay for it again? But it's cheaper.
It's kind of like the insult of buying property and having to pay taxes to keep your own property.
Very insulting.
Just pisses me off. But in some states, they're getting rid of it. Hopefully they do down here in Southern Alabama at some point too. Nonetheless, I'm going to show you what's actually going to happen in New York City over the next couple of years, because I don't know if you noticed this or not, but he's picking a very specific time frame to roll out the majority of these stores. And I think I know why. So I'm going to show you what it's going to look like over the 3 to 5 year period after he launches these stores. And then, did you guys see that he doxed a bunch of rich people today? Did you see that?
Yep.
A whole lot of them.
Doxed, or did he put out a hit list? I'm just kind of curious, because you got to remember who his people are, right?
Yeah.
They are perfectly fine with assassinating people they don't agree with. So, I mean, it seems to me like it's more like that.
That's right.
Because there's nobody hated more than landlords in New York City.
They are the target of the communist takeover of New York City. Because if you can get the landowners, the landlords, you can get everybody, and that's the plan. So we're going to go through what a day in the life of New York City will look like 3 to 5 years after Mamdani's plans are implemented. And then, just for funsies, because I didn't have a chance to watch it, I've got a clip of about 10 to 12 minutes of Donald Trump's jokes from the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And I just thought we would watch them together, because he's freaking hilarious. In case you guys haven't figured it out yet, Donald Trump is by far the funnier than Ronald Reagan, because Donald Trump just gets it. Like, it's just who he is. He's just a hilarious guy. So we're going to spend some time going through that and having some fun with the White House Correspondents' Dinner. But do you mind if I just take a quick point of privilege, give you guys a quick weekend update? So
Yes.
in case you,
Go ahead.
it is blazing hot down here in the South, blazing hot. I think today it was like 97 degrees. And my kids have wanted to get bikes since we got down here because my son had a bike before we moved to the property. And then when you live out in the country and you got, third of a mile driveway that's gravel, there's really no use for bikes anymore. So we hadn't ridden bikes. So we went and got bikes yesterday for all of us. And there's just one problem. My daughter never learned how to ride a bike. So this afternoon,
What?
she didn't
What
because
kind of parent is that
she
shit?
was on training wheels when we moved and we were getting close to like pulling the training wheels off. And then when we moved into the property, there's nowhere to ride a bike. Like, you live out in the country and you can't ride bikes on gravel. So she never learned. So I was spending some time with her today, teaching her how to ride a bike, and she still hasn't quite got it yet, but she's getting there. And I'm a fairly narrow dude, but I'm a little bit, muscular. I've got some development here and there, and I've got man boobs. I have them, but they're not like flabby man boobs. They're like muscular man boobs. I have pecs, and never in my life have I experienced boob sweat until I moved down here in the South. And I outside with my daughter helping, and I come inside and it looks like I'm lactating. It was
Listen, imagine breastfeeding 4 children and then living in the South where it's hot and humid. Imagine the amount of boob sweat then, Patriot Dad. It's real fun, let me tell you. But now you actually get to experience what we like to call swamp ass.
Oh, I've had swamp ass. Yeah. Know all about swamp ass.
This is way off the rails already. But I too, however, have been experiencing boob sweat down here in the South.
Did anyone else want to get in a quick weekend update? SK, I know that
I got a new car.
Yes, she did. She sent me pictures.
Finally,
it's pretty awesome.
Finally,
awesome.
Got a new car. For all of you that have been asking, have you got a new car yet? Have you got a new car yet? Finally got a new car. Saturday, got a new car. It is pretty sweet. I like it.
So Nam and I enjoyed our night off on Friday. I know SK, what were you doing Friday? You were over helping out with the Paramount Tactical show. What?
I was on Spaces and I was modding in the comments on YouTube of Paramount Tactical. It was fun and exciting. Yeah. And I would just like to state for the record, for anyone who was wondering why I wasn't here, if I wasn't like spending time with my family and I was on the internet. When we decided not to do our Friday night shows for the rest of the summer, it was so we could spend time with our family, but also so that we could be able to go to other places and other spaces and be able to grow in other places so that we can be able to grow the audience here. That's the only way that you grow, is going to other places. And that's what I was doing. I was also helping a friend because I do mod for Paramount Tactical and Jen, the producer, and we love them. I know all of you guys love them. And I was there. I maybe said 2 sentences the entire time. And I know it's hard for people to understand, but just like being on TikTok Live, when I'm on TikTok Live and my camera isn't on, I'm like living life. Like I go to the grocery store, I cook dinner, I clean house. Like I'm running errands. I've debated people driving down the highway eating a taco at the same time. When you don't have to sit in front of a computer and have a microphone and have the camera on and the lights and all the things, you can do a whole lot more. So it's really easy to be able to join an X Space, which I hardly ever do. I think I started a couple of X Spaces when TikTok went down for that short period and there were thousands of people in there. That was crazy. But aside from that, the only spaces I've joined are like 2 or 3 maybe of Gary's. And
he does a good job. His spaces are very well run.
Yes. And X Spaces is a place that I want to be able to grow more because I like to be able to debate and have conversation and not have to be sitting in front of a computer and have my camera on and be having to pay attention the whole time. Because when you're in places like Spaces or on TikTok Live and you don't have your camera on, you can literally live your life. And I've been debating people at baseball games. I mean, I've been all over the place. And it's just a lot easier. It's not the same as having to be all prepared and sit down in front of the lights. And so
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to be able to just turn the camera off and just jump in when you want. By the way, SK, Elise says your hair looks great.
Thank you.
And then I saw, can you put that back up again real quick from The Amazing Torah? So folks, The Amazing Torah, one of our original P0s from the show. As you guys remember last week, we interrupted the show. We prayed for her husband, for her, for others that are not feeling well. She says, PD, Nam, and SK. Hubby says, thank you for your powerful prayers last Monday. He's home, but we have a long road ahead. Please keep us informed. Any other prayer requests or anything else that you need, please let us know. We want to make sure that we're here for you guys just as much as you are for us. So with that, let's jump into it. So we've got the Cuba report. Now, I haven't read the whole thing. I'm just going to admit, because it's about 100 pages long, but I've read chunks of it, bits and pieces of it. So we are going to be winding SK up and letting her run, because there's probably nobody, maybe 2 or 3 other people on the planet that know as much about this topic as she does, because she's been researching these networks pretty much her whole life. Like since she decided to get into politics, she started diving into this stuff. So we're going to dive into the Cuba report. SK, is there anything that you want to say to set this Cuba report up? How do you want to take this? You just want to go through the deck and then we can kind of see how that.
Well, I think it's important for people to pay attention. Those of you that have been here from the beginning, especially, I want you guys to remember the whole color revolution ecosystem. At the beginning, we were trying to explain it, and I used to say like this web of corruption and things like that. Make sure you're thinking about that as we go through this Cuba report, because things will start to fall in place and make more sense to you as far as the foreign influence, not just Cuba. The Cuba report mentions other countries as well as the guerrilla warfare training and the tactics that they use. There's training in the Middle East all over the place that have taken place. And people from the Middle East, like terrorists from the Middle East, have gone to Cuba to train. And I don't know if you guys remember when I had to go off that time and be extra spicy because people were going at Data Republican because she posted a TikTok. She said TikTok because she had some information she was posting, and everyone got really mad that it was taking so long for her to post. And I came on here and told you guys, if she says she's going to post something, you know she's going to post it. And when she does, she's going to have receipts for what she posts. But the reason that she took so long to post all of that is because it was during the exposing of the ICE signal chats. And one of the things that was being shared inside those ICE signal chats was the mini manual for guerrilla warfare. We talked about it on this podcast that night when I went off on people going at Data Republican. She wasn't going to post anything until she made sure, tell everyone that was involved in all of that, made sure that all that information got to the right people, because they were literally sharing urban guerrilla warfare tactics as they were protesting in Minneapolis. And that is all addressed in the Cuba report.
Yeah, the Cuba report is pretty damn comprehensive. And I think what was really interesting about this is I think it kind of helped to reframe people's perspective on exactly where this radicalization is coming from, because we hear a lot about radicalization from China, from Iran, from Russia. All of them are involved. There's no doubt about it. But if there is a single point of radicalization in the Western Hemisphere, it has been Cuba, and it has been Cuba for a very long time. Do you guys remember? We've talked about this many, many times on the podcast. We talked about how coming out of World War II, Russia and the United States were aligned, if you will, in fighting against fascism, right? Against the Nazis, the Italians, the Japanese. We were aligned for the primary goal of defeating fascism. Now, Russia had a very different objective in that war than we did. Russia's objective was the same objective that communists have had against fascists throughout Europe for 50, 75, 100 years prior to that. They hated each other, but it wasn't necessarily because they disagreed fundamentally on the concept of authoritarianism. As a matter of fact, they agreed pretty heavily on most things. They just didn't like the fact that they were fighting over people, because it was a zero-sum game in terms of membership. If one person left fascism and went to communism, that was one less fascist and one more communist. That's the way they looked at the world in Europe during that time period. So when the United States and Russia and the Allies defeated the Axis powers, Russia immediately started to pivot post-World War II and turned their attention on their ultimate objective, which was defeating the free market, defeating capitalist, defeating freedom. And they started to do that in a couple of areas. One of the biggest areas where they started to infiltrate was the education system through the universities. They started implementing their Marxist ideologies through education, but also through Cuba. Cuba became a launching point for radicalization in the Antonio Gramsci style of switching from economic Marxism to cultural Marxism, attacking a country's culture, attacking who they are, their hegemony. And that's one of the key things that jumped off the page at me when I was looking through this. It's like, this is where we started to hear about racial guerrilla warfare. We started to hear about their attacks on United States culture, not just on capitalism. And it comes out of Cuba. Let's jump in here, SK, and I'm going to kind of prompt you through these slides if we can, as we go through this. What's the first one to talk about now? Are you able to pull that up?
I hope you guys
I
aren't
mean,
completely
up there.
relying on me.
All I see is Cuba report, section by section review.
Yep. So you want the first slide?
Yeah, first slide. Yeah, here we go. All right. Revolutionary state. Sustained campaign of subversion. What this report showed us is that we have lived under 7 years or 7 decades of influence. Activist recruitment, left-wing terrorism, support and intelligence penetration into our institutions. So the first part of this report spends an enormous amount of time laying the foundation for what SK has spent most of her time investigating. Jump to the next one.
There you go.
Birth of a new left. And this is where you start to understand their objectives for destroying the cultural hegemony of the United States. Third worldism, an ideological shift. SK, what's the Tricontinental Conference in 1966? Do you have any details into that?
Yeah, it was a meeting. I can't remember how many countries were there, like 22 maybe, I think. It's listed in the report.
Mm-hmm.
They all went to this meeting, and there's a Tricontinental Institute that puts out still information frequently on a regular basis. But there was this guy, I don't know how to say his name. I don't know if it's Che
Guevara.
Che Guevara.
Che.
Yeah,
Guevara.
that
Yeah.
guy. He made a speech there as well, and it is frequently referenced a lot by the far left.
Mm-hmm.
And
He's one of their heroes.
yeah, I think I put
We did.
a document, a PDF that has a lot of that information in it. I'm trying to get to where my notes are on that.
I've got it. Che Guevara on socialism and internationalism. There's a PDF, but
That's
And
another
notice they're
100-page
using
document.
internationalism now. I've pointed that out several times,
Yeah.
that they're not saying globalism now, they're saying internationalism.
mhm.
Of course they are, because people understand what globalism is. They think internationalism is just the international community coming together to improve the world. They don't realize that internationalism is in fact globalism, which has been the tool the globalist and the British system has used to literally hollow out Western societies piece by piece. Did you notice some other names show up here as I was reading through the report? And this is what was really intriguing to me, because one of the first critiques of Barack Obama when he was running for president and while he was president was his involvement with a guy named Ayers. What was his first name?
Bill Ayers and Bernadine
Ayers.
Dorn. Yeah, Bernadine Dorn. Yeah, affiliated
He
with Weather
launched
Underground.
his campaign with Bill
his living room.
Ayers.
That's
In
right.
Bill Ayers'
Mhm.
living room.
Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn were two of his, I don't know if you want to call it mentors, certainly had a heavy influence on his ideological perspective. And wouldn't you know that the Weather Underground was partnering with Cuba for the training that they did? Didn't some of the Weather Underground people go to prison for bombing U.S. installations and facilities?
Yes. And then one
They
of
did.
them was they broke him out of jail and escaped to Cuba and was given asylum and given
Mhm.
like an important political position in Cuba. I
That's
read
right.
that whole report the day it came out, and then today I plugged it into a deal and had it talk to me. And you guys know how well I do audiobooks, but I listened to it again, sort of. And I'm really surprised how much is in that report that we've talked about here on this podcast.
Yeah. Well, I'm not. I'm not surprised about it at all. So the Weather Underground gets a lot of their influence and training support from Cuba. And I've talked about this a little bit. The report details a pretty significant shift from classical class-based struggles that communism and Marxism had originally been built on to the Antonio Gramsci version of the struggle, learning how to use certain wedge issues and pivots and fractures in a society to start breaking society apart. See, I think many of us had grown up. I know those of us that are maybe Gen X millennials, we'd kind of grown up seeing Cuba as this decrepit, defunct, already defeated nation state island that was basically just days or weeks or even years away from utter collapse. But in fact, Cuba was I mean, that may have been their reality economically, but ideologically, it has been a thriving metropolis for radicalism, specifically the type of radicalism that you see on the streets of the United States day in and day out. Identity radicalism, racial
Well, that's
radicalism.
been the goal. The goal has
Mhm.
been to infiltrate the United States and to overthrow the United States from within. That has been their goal, and all of their tactics have been with that purpose.
That's right.
That's what
Well,
even the terrorists that train with them, that's what they do. That's their tactic.
Because
yeah,
they
but
learned the lesson.
this is not going to be allowed to continue. I mean, the Shield of America is the national defense strategy, national security strategy is not going to allow this to continue to occur in Cuba.
Well, it can. And you can't develop a Don Road doctrine. You can't develop a Western Hemisphere, somewhat of a united front when you have the seat of radicalism 90 miles from your southern border. It can't exist.
And I think it's important for people to understand, you were talking about, Cuba, and this is the third worldism that they
Go to the next one.
have been pushing. So the third worldism, it is the ideological current within Marxism that prioritizes anti-imperialist and civilizational struggle over classical class-based analysis. So you have to think of it's a struggle between the third world, which is the global south, like formerly colonized or dependent nations like Cuba, and oppressed peoples. Oh, and Cuba and Palestine are very close with each other, which,
Mhm.
I mean, if you stop and think about the people that have been advocating for Cuba and how they also advocate for Palestine, then you get a greater understanding of exactly what's going on here. But so the third world, which is the global south, which is, formerly colonized or dependent nations and oppressed peoples, and the imperialists, the colonizers, which is the first world, which is led by the United States, but it also includes the broader West. So you have Europe as well. They're the colonizers, the imperialists. And you'll hear the left and the socialists talk a lot about imperialists and colonizers, and that is why. Because that's the narrative that has to be pushed is the United States and the West have been oppressing all of these people. It's all our fault.
So to me, when I hear this, and you're spot on, but when I hear this, what I hear is the globalist elite, the British system, setting up distractions from themselves. Because the idea that the United States is the colonizers is 180 degrees backwards. We don't move into countries, and we never have move into countries and take it over and run it by proxy. We maybe tried that a little bit in the Middle East for 15 years and it failed utterly. We're certainly not doing that now. But there is a system out there that has thrived on this idea of imperialism, on colonization. It's not us. It's the British system. So when these people complain about imperialism, they may have a legitimate complaint, but it's directed at the wrong people.
Yeah,
Well,
but
but
in the last 100 years, the U.S. military has been the enforcement of the British system, right? And that's what President Trump is trying to get us out of. We've been the spear that allows it to
Been the
persist.
hammer, the big
The
dumb
hammer.
hammer.
Yeah.
But you also have to understand that they're convincing people that there are like internal colonies that like the marginalized groups, the racial minorities within the United States are treated as colonized subjects within the empirical core of the United States. So their goal is to convince the racial minorities and the oppressed people in the United States that they are being oppressed by the imperialists of the United States. That's why they are where they are.
No, you're 100% right. And that's why I went back to the last slide, Google Slides or whatever on browser tab kind of stinks. Anyway, so when they moved from that class struggle to the racial identity radicalism struggle, that's the intent. It's hard. It's difficult to argue classism in an economy and a society where, I mean, everybody is basically hand over fist richer than their grandparents were.
That's right.
Right. It's hard to argue that, especially in a functioning capitalist society, the way we've been for the last 50, 60, 70 years. It's hard to do that. That's where the race struggle, the race identity, and I can't say words, the race identity and that race struggle comes in, because how else are they going to drive a wedge if the middle class in a country is huge and the poor is minute? You can't do it.
Right. I'm going to take this slide down for just a second because we played a video last Wednesday that I think will make even more sense after SK just gave us the definition for third worldism. So if you remember, I can't remember her name, but this is the candidate in the state of Colorado, the DSA candidate who won the primary and defeated a Democrat incumbent to basically run for the House of Representatives out of Colorado. And I want you to listen again to what she has to say about the type of people they feel are necessary to raise to levels of position in this country, and it aligns perfectly with this concept of third worldism.
Particularly important, not just for our community in Tigray, but communities of the global South, period, right? There's a certain reckoning that we are going to have with the global world order as it exists today, and the way that it fundamentally will have to shift going forward, right? The responsibility that we have as Americans, the recognition that is going to be required of us, of the exploitative and extractive nature that we play on the global scale and the global stage, is only going to be challenged if we are getting represented by people who understand that on a fundamental level. Right? And that means getting more immigrants into office. That means getting more people who have heritage in the global South into office, because that's where those decisions are made specifically.
SK, is that making more sense now based on the definition you just read to us?
Well, it's always made sense to me.
Well,
I just
to
do
everybody
a really
else.
crappy job of explaining it and being concise. I don't know how I got here, but here I am. Yeah, no, I think that's perfect. I'm glad that you pulled that video up, because you'll notice they say global South a lot, and a lot of people are like, what is the global South? And I think I clarified after you played that video last time. I think I defined what the global South is. But again, remember, I've told you guys all of the countries that were working together to go at the United States. I've always told you guys that I thought that it was Cuba and Venezuela and Iran and Iran's proxies, the cartels, China and Russia. But when it comes to the global South and these people that have been doing mainly these tactics and doing these trainings and things like that, it's basically Cuba and Venezuela and Iran's proxies, the cartels, that are mostly involved with that. You have China and Russia that's more pulling the strings like a puppet master.
That's right.
But you also have Africa in there because Cuba has been heavily involved in Africa as well.
It's amazing. These radical nation states are willing to invest more time, money, and influence outside of their borders into other places than build hospitals and schools and roads and economies in their own country. It should tell you all the only thing they care about. The only thing they care about is their radicalization. They don't care at all about the subjects that are forced to suffer under them, which is if I had to put a highlight or a 20,000 foot view title on this entire concept of fighting against communism, that's it. Because they don't care about you at all. Even if they live next door to you, they don't care about you at all. They care about expanding power as far as they can expand it, and will starve you to death in order to feed the machine that does that. They could care less about you. And I hope you're getting that through this series, is they don't care about you. They don't care. And why would they? Because you're just a mouth to feed. You're just a person that sucks off of their teat. As a matter of fact, the fewer of you, the more money and resources for them to continue to expand their power and their reach and their influence.
But they're going to sell it to you by telling
yeah.
you that, they're going to seize all these resources
right.
and then they're going to distribute them equitably. And you're going to be able to go to city-owned or state-owned grocery stores and be able to get all this food for so much cheaper because, government,
That's right.
because the government's in control. I don't know at what point people think that the government being in control of anything is a good idea, but here we are.
I don't either. All right. Exporting revolution. And that's basically what Cuba's been doing over the last, call it 30, 40 years, is they have been training and exporting their form of racial revolution, specifically in this country.
This has literally been since the 50s. And then you have the 60s and the Weather Underground and all of those things. This has never gone away. This has absolutely never gone away. And I think I've talked on here about the declassified CIA documents, especially pertaining to like when the mini manual for guerrilla warfare was being circulated in the ICE signal chats, and I was researching that. Finding a lot of the declassified CIA documents, I don't know how a lot of this stuff has been allowed to go on for as long as it has, especially because our government knows that it's taking place. Why are they not stopping this and stopping these people, knowing what their plan is? This is no different than using Section 702 to be able to spy on foreign terrorists. A lot of these people are just in this country and they are Americans, but they are working with foreign terrorists in order to overthrow the United States. How are people getting away with this?
It should be treason, frankly. I mean, that's literally the definition of treason. When you're working with foreign powers to overthrow the United States government, because they don't mince words about it. They don't want to go through legal avenues to pass legislation that will do things. That's not at all what they intend to do, because it can't go far enough. It can't go fast enough. And frankly, it can't actually do a lot of the things that they want to do. To me, it's treason. I'm sorry. You may get some folks who are like, maybe there's FARA violations that are going on here, but this isn't FARA because we're not talking about lobbying Congress, right? We're not talking about lobbying politicians.
No, we're talking about overthrowing the country.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're talking about abolishing the Senate, which, as we've discussed, there's no mechanism to do it. And then I did see the Atlantic, Patriot Dad, you sent that out. That's one of the greatest ideas DSA has. No, dumbass, because then we don't exist as a republic anymore.
Right. Yeah, right? I don't have it on the agenda, but we can talk about it real quick, just as a side note. Did you guys see the Atlantic wrote an article?
Real quick, GR Patriot said people are being dumbed down for 100 years. I want you to understand that the Marxists have taken over education. They've taken over almost every aspect. They've taken over a lot of the law, judges, prosecutors, all sorts of things. Our country has been taken over by Marxists, and a lot of them have been funded by people like George Soros and Neville Roy Singham and all of these organizations that we've been talking to you about, this has been the entire purpose, because again, they can't build the government that they want so that they can be in control and at the top of the pyramid unless they collapse the US American system and our representative constitutional republic.
That's right.
That has to go away, because what they want and our constitution are not compatible. They are antithetical to each other.
Well, they have to be. I mean, they have to be antithetical. Now, did you find that headline? Did you guys see this? The Atlantic wrote
Yeah,
an
man.
article because the authors of the Atlantic don't have the balls to just come out and say what they mean. They write an article with a headline saying, well, maybe the idea that the DSA have of getting rid of the Senate is a good one, because they don't have the balls to just flat out tell you that they want to eliminate our Constitution. Now, it says abolish the Senate might be the DSA's best idea. Why? Because it is the idea that eliminates the Constitution of the United States. And the Atlantic just doesn't have the balls to come out and say that.
Yeah, the
So-
subheadline here is a teardown of the upper chamber would be good for American democracy. That's the entire point, people. That is the entire point. That is, they aren't misspeaking, they aren't misunderstanding what this means. When they say democracy, they mean 50.1% of the people can vote to steal your shit and kill you, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's exactly what they mean.
They mean the inner cities will dictate all of
Yes.
our politics everywhere across the entire country, because that's what it will boil down to.
That's right. I'm going to pull something up on my X account real quick. Did you guys? So let me ask you guys a quick question. I want to go back to Donald Trump's primetime speech a week and a half ago, or 2 weeks ago, where he lays out the vulnerabilities in our election system. And I know the obvious pull quotes from that speech are things that are focused directly on votes, on primaries, on just on the way ballots are cast. But I actually think that there was a much bigger item that he talked about in that whole speech. The reason why these guys are not being criminalized for the things that they're doing, these people have been allowed to infiltrate our system, is because most of them have been bought. They've been bought and they've been paid for. They are influenced by foreign countries. And one of the key things that Donald Trump talked about was foreign influence in our elections, not just getting access to their voter rolls, but actually funding influence into our systems.
Mhm.
So I saw on X, and I'm trying to pull it up on my account. I'm probably not gonna be able to get to it right away. I saw on X, somebody released a list of journalists that are now confirmed to have been taking money from China and from other places. You're
I've
gonna
got it right here.
hopefully
It
at
was
some
I've got it
Natalie.
here.
It was
Natalie
Natalie
Winters,
Winters.
I've got it right here. Keep talking.
is this a list that we should have any credibility in? Is this a list that we should feel good about
I
showing?
mean, a
or-
lot of this stuff is from 2018.
Okay, so it's a little bit older.
But
So
the names,
what she,
I don't
yeah,
know
what
that
she's
the
doing here
names-
is she's found a manifest she's found a manifest of journalists that were flown over to China for some exclusive event, and they were basically
the
given
United
a tour
Front,
of China.
I think it's
Yeah,
called.
United
Yeah.
Front. So folks like Ezra Klein from the New York Times, Matthew Iglesias from Vox, Ronald Brownstein, never heard of him, Bradford Plumer, Marjorie Miller. I mean, she's got a huge list. Steve Clemens from The Hill, MS Now, David Rode, Jonathan Alter, NBC, David Sweeney, Daniel Gross, former Yahoo Finance columnist. So these are all names that came out of that United Front event that they were all flown out there. And then I believe she goes on to say flown at favorable coverage and positive messaging about Beijing. Yeah.
So if we knew about journalists back in 2018, as SK highlighted, how many politicians do you think are on these lists? How
Oh, I
many
never brought
elected
it up, did I?
officials? How many elected officials do you think are going to show up on the list of individuals who have influence over our political system, have been partnering with Cuba and with China and with Iran? How
We
many
have-
influencers?
Well, there's tons. They even mentioned Hassan Piker and
Mhm.
the whole flotilla that went to Cuba in that report. But also you have Karen Bass. You have tons of elected officials over time. You have some that have been in the intelligence agencies. Some of them were even able to lie on the lie detector tests for the CIA, because they teach these people how to be able to lie on lie detector tests and be able to pass them.
When the CIA, when the intelligence agencies are able to insert their former agents into governorships around the country at specific times, like in New
And
Jersey and
senators and
Virginia and senators, there's a reason why they are allowed to get away with this, Nam. You brought up the question. This is, yes, it is treason. But if the people who are responsible for holding treason accountable are in fact the ones who are under influence from these countries, it'll never happen. It'll never happen. And that's the thing I think was the biggest takeaway out of Trump's primetime speech, is calling out the fact that we are suffering under a foreign influence operation in this country, and no time has it been worse than it is right now. You know, I think I go back and forth on this real quick. I go back and forth on this argument around the Candace Owens saga quite often. Part of me is like, it's a huge distraction. We shouldn't pay attention to it. The other part of me is like, no, this is in fact the core central thing that the country needs to be focused on. It maybe not necessarily be Candace Owens specifically, but it is the influence operation that she is now leading to destroy and divide this country. That is the core function of what this influence operation is designed to do. SK?
Let me tie this together for you really quick. You mentioned Ezra Klein. Now remember, one of the co-founders of Indivisible is named Ezra Klein. It's not the same Ezra Klein as the New York Times journalist, but the New York Times journalist is the co-author of the book Abundance, and he was a speaker at the welcome parties, their whole whatever it was called. I can't remember what it's called. We've talked about it on here before. The welcome party. You know how when DSA came out with their whole new platform, you had some of these Democrats coming out and saying, we don't align with these socialists. We are capitalists, and we have this new party that you can join called the Welcome Party. And I told you guys that it came off of the heels of their big, huge, whatever it's called that they had in DC, where they had all these speakers and they had this big gathering for the Welcome Party. And I told you guys it was the abundance agenda being pushed. We've talked about the abundance agenda. Well, Ezra Klein is one of those people. He literally co-wrote Abundance. And that's the whole economic system that they want to implement with the well-being economy, and taking the resources and dividing them equitably, and, you know, talking about things being scarce and things being abundant. Like, it's abundant when it comes to the corporations and all of these things for like resources for data centers and all of that stuff. But when it comes to your you know, AC and your water and things like that, well, you have to conserve your electricity and you have to conserve your water. That's the abundance that we're talking about here. So again, all of this ties in, and whether it's the DSA or whether it's the Welcome Party, it's all the same thing. It's literally all the same thing. They just try to make it sound nicer.
They try to create different flanks and different tentacles of it so that people will grab onto it at different levels, but it's all taking you back to the same core. It's the left.
Yeah,
it's all
like
the left.
your options here, as much as it sucks, your options are the right and the Republicans that stand on the Constitution and capitalism and your individual rights. And then there's the left that's worried about the collective and either 100% socialism, Marxism, communism, whatever, or the pretty repackaged with a bow abundance agenda. Those are the options.
Can I rephrase that for you real quick, or just for my own use?
Sure.
You have the right, and SK accurately framed as standing on the Constitution, on free markets, individual liberty, but consistently disappoints voters by failing to actually deliver on the promises that they make. Or you have the left who just wants to dismantle the Constitution and destroy the country. And either way, even though the Republicans suck at delivering on things they say they're going to do, at least they're not destroying the country every time they wake up tomorrow and try to figure out, what can I do today to make life worse for people? Because that's what the left does. That's what they do. Amazing Torah asked a question. Could the military arrest treasonous persons? Under the right conditions, yes. Do we have the right conditions right now? I mean, there are some people out there that believe that, there are some things that President Trump put in place in 45 that may allow for that. I don't know. There's some people out there that think that there's a couple executive orders that could give him a lot of leeway should they decide to go that route. I don't know. But as it stands right now, he's not doing it. So can they?
I think we missed a
under
super
the right
chat
conditions.
earlier. Is it still up there?
I think so.
Yeah, we did. It was a $4.99 super chat. We're kind of taking the position of trying to let those things hang around or get
Okay.
to
I
them
didn't
at a
want to
natural
forget.
pause. Yeah,
Sorry.
it was.
I just thought about
No,
it.
it's all right. Yeah, it's fair.
Let's pull that one up real quick. So it was GR
I'm trying to find
Patriot.
it.
Would love to see your channel grow bigger than James Comey's ego. I don't think that's possible. If they're, he's
I
got an
responded
ego.
and was like, is anyone's channel bigger than his ego?
I mean, the
'Cause
guy is
I
what,
don't think
6'8", and he carries
Uh,
15
I think
feet
he's
of ego.
6'7", yeah.
I think he's like six. Did you say six,
6'6",
7"? My kids,
6'7",
my
yeah.
kids are still doing the 6'7" thing, and it's really
No,
annoying. It
that's
must be a homeschool kid thing. I don't know. All right, bring the slide deck back up. We got a couple more to get through. Did you lose it?
Okay. Well, I mean, I took it down to show other things.
Oh,
but
there's
okay.
a lot of stuff that we want to go through here real quick.
Well, I mean, look, what it's right here, dude. We got
All right.
everybody calm down. Look, boom. I did it.
All right. So we did exporting revolution, hemisphere-wide guerrilla support, training of 20,000 fighters. Not only were they involved in training revolutionary fighters in Central and South America, but starting to do that here in the United States. Go to the next one real quick.
Well, I mean, before we get
That's
off that, I
also-
mean, the term Sandinistas should ring a bell for just about everybody. Now, I know that this was kind of big back in the 80s and 90s and all that stuff, but they popped right back up on the world stage just last week when you got Ortega decided that he's just canceling elections. There's no more elections. You don't have to worry about which communist you're going to vote for anymore, which dictator. You just get him. That's him, because that's what the ultimate.
And his wife.
That's
And his
what
wife.
this-
He
and his
has a
wife.
dual
That's what this
presidency
passed.
with his decrepit old lady wife.
Yeah, that's how this will always end up. So yeah, so they trained those Sandinistas, those fighters, the oppressors, the authoritarians, and now you don't even get elections anymore. So enjoy that, folks.
I
Down
mean,
there in
isn't that
Nicaragua.
wild that the people who trained the Sandinistas and delivered communism that won't allow you to vote anymore are the same people who are training Hassan Piker and Armia Finian and Karen Bass and countless other influential people in this country, probably even influencing Candace Owens and people like that who are supposed to be on the right, but have decided that they want to participate in the color revolution.
Well, and the National Lawyers Guild and all these people, we've talked a lot about the national, what's it called? NNOC. Why did my brain just completely go blank?
I don't know.
We've
I'll look
talked
it up
about
for
it
you
a
if you want.
million times. But the sponsors for that group are the Pastors for Peace, the National Lawyers Guild, the DSA, the PSL, Code Pink, Answer Coalition, Armed Queers, SLC, all of the well, I don't know if BLM is necessarily explicitly listed, but the
They are.
BLM movement was basically a part of all of this. I think
Yep.
BLM is definitely referenced in the Cuba report, but
Mhm.
as far as the what's it called? Visermo whatever brigades, the partners and sponsors are listed on the NNOC national network on Cuba.
Yeah,
is
that's
what
the
it's called.
Venceramos Brigade, 10,000
Yes.
plus American activists to Cuba for solidarity work that the report
And-
describes as major infiltration training intelligence operation controlled by Cuban intelligence.
And back in September, when I found all that stuff about Ermia Fenian and Armed Queers SLC, Data Republican was able to go in and find the full 30-minute video interview with Ermia Fenian and someone else from Armed Queers SLC from 2025 talking about their trip to Cuba. And she's got that posted. I reposted it today because I knew we were going to be going over all of this. And when I was looking, I was like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot that she was able to go in there and find, because it was deleted.
That's right.
And she got the entire 30-minute interview.
That's right. All right, pull the next one real quick. An espionage empire. And I think this is one of the most critical aspects of what Cuba has been involved in. It is literal infiltration, penetration of the U.S. government. And it lists a whole list of names of people that were involved. Victor Roca, Anna Belen Montes. By the way, I suck at pronouncing people's names, so you're just going to have to deal with it. The Myers couple, the WASP network, long-term ideological recruitment. And this is what I'm talking about in terms of why accountability has never come for any of these people. It's because they have literally infiltrated every aspect of our state, our local, and our federal government. Their people are starving and dying in the streets, but they have money to infiltrate every aspect of U.S. society.
Yeah.
And
why
I made a post probably a year or two ago about Cuba and these things, and some of the prominent people and politicians in the United States that had made positive comments about Castro and Cuba. And when you go back and look, it's all the usual suspects, but you also have like Barbara Walters listed there. I made a whole thread about it. I'm sure you could search for it on my X account. But one of the things that they always reference, Bernie Sanders, all of these people would reference with respect to Castro is the education in Cuba is so great. It's all about how they have this great education system.
And
because it's free. It's free. Everyone can get an education and how to be a
And
revolutionary.
another thing that they do, when I was looking at and translating some of those Tricontinental Institute documents, one of the things that they do is uphold the women in Cuba, and they talk about the women leading the movement, and the women are always out front. And that's what we're seeing in the United States as well, with all of these liberal women getting out front and loud, and even the ones that have children, putting their children in harm's way for protest purposes, for ICE, for illegal aliens that wouldn't do anything to help them or their children. And they're putting themselves and their children in danger and, you know, being killed for doing so, like Renee Good.
That's right. That's right. All right, pull the next one real quick. We're getting close to the end of these here. But
Oh,
these
and the WASP network. Does everybody know what that is?
No, you should probably tell us.
It's white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, right? Isn't that what WASP means? Because that's what it should mean. That's what it does mean.
Well, yeah, but it's a Cuban intelligence operation that was run by the DI that infiltrated anti-Castro Cuban exile groups and monitored U.S. military and civilian targets in South Florida.
That's right.
They were active in the 90s for the most part, and it was dismantled by the FBI in 1998. But that's some interesting history, and that's referenced in the Cuba report as well.
That's right. For those of you guys that are trying to keep up, DI is effectively Cuba's intelligence agency. Incredibly effective. It's a U.S.-focused, Soviet-trained, later independent organization specialized in long-term ideological recruitment of true believers. That's
They're the ones that... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I was going to say that's the organization that she's talking about when she says DI. It is a group inside of Cuba that's sole responsibility is infiltration of the United States and recruitment. That's what they do. They recruit people.
They're the ones that were responsible for shooting down that plane that had the two brothers on it in 1996 over international waters. 4 people were killed. Wait, hold on. Yeah,
that was the Myers
two brothers.
Right? Tell you who that was.
I think that was their name. It was the operation that facilitated the shoot down was called Operation Scorpion.
That's right. All right, go to the next one. Revolutionary tourism. This is SK's pet project. Venceramos Brigade and the activist pipeline. 10,000 Americans have been trained so far through Cuba. The Weather Underground, AQSLC, Modern Bridges, and the 2026 Nuestra America Convoy. Is this the convoy that Ermia Finian was at,
Yes.
or is this the Hassan
No,
Piker
the
convoy?
2026 is the Hassan Piker and Ileana Omar's daughter.
Yep.
There were a lot of people on there, and there's British connections there as
Of course there
well.
are. Of course there
Of
are.
course, of course. With as much as they say they hate the imperialists, it's crazy how
They're working
involved
for the
Britain
imperialists.
is.
Remember,
Right.
folks, I'm telling you, communism was created by the Brits. I'm telling you, all of this that you're seeing is a globalist tactic to try to divide the world further. It all comes from the same people. It all comes from the same people.
Well, I think they suck.
They do suck.
For what it's worth.
All
But
right,
I mean, you can go back to all of our podcasts and look
all
at
here.
this stuff. The activist pipeline, all of the stuff with the brigades, Code Pink, Ermia Finian, Neville Roy Singham. You can go back to all of our podcasts. You can go to my X account, Data Republicans X account. We've talked about this ad nauseum.
Yep. Yeah, we would not have had the BLM riots were it not for China and Cuba's involvement. It wouldn't have happened. It would have been a small incursion that happened in Minneapolis, and it would have died there.
Well, the leader of Black Lives Matter's Global Network Foundation, or whatever it's called, was one of these Cuba people as well. And then you have Minion Moore, the Hillary Clinton associate, that was also one of the leaders of the Global Network Foundation for BLM. And you have Mark Elias, who was the bookkeeper for that organization and is listed in the court documents in California for the lawsuits that were taking place. He was literally listed as the bookkeeper and was an attorney for the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation.
That's right. All right, we got the next one. I think this might be the last one.
I already did.
Oh,
It's the
racial revolution.
racial revolution.
Yeah, folks. I mean, look, there is no doubt that Cuba exists to destroy the cultural hegemony of the United States. And they are radicalizing and have been for a very long time, radicalizing racial tensions in this country to do it. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. That's been their objective. And they have been wildly successful because they have been incredibly successful at recruiting influential people to help them do it. Bottom line.
Yeah, Weather Underground, Bill Ayers, Bernadine Dorn.
And they put a president in the White House.
Barack Obama. They did. They put a president in the White House. It's pretty
And these
influential.
are all the people that the left looks up to. There are entire schools dedicated to Shakur, or however you say it. And you have Angela Davis. You can go on YouTube and look up Angela Davis. And what was the organization? It could have been DSA. I listened to several different interviews with Angela Davis with this one organization. It was like these 20-something Gen Zers that were interviewing Angela Davis. There are interviews. There are on screen at the same time Ermia Finian and Angela Davis. I mean, anyone and everyone that you could think would be on camera with Angela Davis is on camera with Angela Davis.
Of course they are. Let me ask you guys a quick question, because I think a lot of times people struggle to understand why Donald Trump does the things that he does and the order in which he does them. It doesn't make sense a lot of times if you're looking at things in the moment. Sometimes it helps to go back and look at things historically to say, this makes sense. Do you guys remember after Donald Trump went into Venezuela, removed Maduro, and one of the most successful raids probably of all time, took him out of there in a few hours, arrested him, put him in prison, and is going to convict him most likely for the indictments, the charges that he was indicted under? And what was one of the things that Donald Trump said after that raid? You guys remember when he talked about Cuba being next? You see, there's a reason why Venezuela had to be first in order to secure the Western Hemisphere. And it didn't really have much at all to do with, well, it did. Obviously, they were driving the drug trade into the country. They were driving a lot of the immigration into the country. But without Venezuela, Cuba ceases to exist, because Cuba cannot sustain itself economically without Venezuela. So if you want to destroy if you want to destroy the hotbed of political radicalization in the country, Cuba, you have to choke it first.
And Bolivia is a part of all this as well, and Nicaragua. But Bolivia, and remember when we talked about China was about to take over Bolivia? I don't know what's going on with Bolivia and where they're at today, but the Belt and Road Initiative and all the things that were going on in Venezuela with China basically taking over again. Remember, Russia and China are like the puppet master strings for Cuba and Venezuela, and they have made their way in through financing of all of these things, basically taking over the ports in Venezuela. China did. And then they were about to take over Bolivia. And again, I don't know where they're at with Bolivia right now, but that's how it was several months ago. And by Trump taking out Venezuela, it has made that whole network that was very tight more unstable. And once Cuba goes down, it's going to be able to be rebuilt so that things will be much more stable in the global South, if you will.
That's right. Yes, Boggs Chips. Cuba got their oil from Venezuela on black market deals and in trade for providing security for Maduro. The island of Cuba basically is powered, or was powered, from unlawful Venezuelan oil.
Wow. Sanctioned.
Same thing. The word escaped me. Sanctioned Venezuelan oil. Not anymore.
Not
Not anymore. Do we have a time cleanser? We probably don't. We'll just jump into this.
I didn't.
Somebody said there was a good one of Trump posting a video of him, an AI video of him fighting aliens, but I couldn't find it. The only thing I could find when I looked for that was what I thought was probably one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. I don't know if you guys saw this, but people were trying to pass this off as legitimate. I don't know, a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
Play it.
It was the most absurd thing. You guys remember seeing this video here? People are saying that this is real. You see that?
No, you have to take down the thing first and then put this up on the screen.
What? Oh, son of a gun. You're right. Remove. Add to stage. Yeah, did you guys see this?
No. What's this?
Literally, there were people trying to pass this off as real.
Yeah,
those are real aliens. Trump's meeting with real aliens, and no one was allowed to take pictures except those people were taking. Oh, he's coming to take them.
That's the That's the Nordics. I don't like why. That's the Nordics. That's a race of aliens. Why are people
that
surprised
looks
by
like
that?
people from what's it called, Game of Thrones or some shit.
From it looks like the elves from not Lord of the Rings, the one before that, long before that. But yeah, that's the only thing I could.
I don't know why people are like, hey, folks, those exist. Those are the Nordics. There's a race of aliens called the Nordics that look just like that. That's real. It has to be real.
Do you guys know that Angela Davis was given the Soviet Union's Lenin Peace Prize and was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame?
Not shocked. Not shocked.
I didn't. Here's Trump with more aliens.
Yeah.
So he's having a conversation with a gray. I'm assuming this is a gray,
those
right?
are the grays. Except those grays are too tall. Actually, well, that's not right. This is fake because the grays are only about 3.5 feet tall. And then there's like the boss of the grays.
I'm going to be taller than these aliens?
You'll be taller than the grays. But then there are the like they're not reptilians, they look like praying mantises almost, who are like the bosses of the grays. Those things are like 7 feet tall. That right there is a gray. Very real. Very real.
So this was on Sunday. President Trump.
Part?
Yeah.
No,
All
I
right.
don't mean in the podcast. I mean like in real life, because I'm really not into all the sci-fi stuff and the alien stuff. I'm
You
just
better
not
you
into
better
it.
catch up, SK. All the research you do, you would have a field day if you started diving into ufology. It would totally wreck your world.
Listen, today
Totally wreck your world.
I sent an ex post from some guy claiming to be a CIA whistleblower,
Oh, I saw
I
that.
saw
talking
that,
about
yeah.
how he's assassinated people in the United States and other places for the CIA, and it's MK Ultra and blah blah blah. And I sent it to Jenica and Lisa, and I was like,
Oh no, the chat's
I
gonna
don't know
take
if
me
this
off
is
track.
real or not, but I am gonna go through life ignorant. I don't even want to know. Like, I just don't want to know.
All right, this is the last comment I'm going to make about giants and ufology. Yes, absolutely think the giant of Kandahar is real, and not the only one, by the way. There's not just one. There are entire colonies of them in the mountains of Afghanistan and all throughout, really all over the world. Not so much in Sardinia anymore. They're already dead. But yes, the giant of Kandahar is real.
What is Fourth Strike talking about? Because I hate cats. I only like my cat because it's not really a
The
cat.
big
I mean, it's a
bipedal cat. I
but-
haven't heard about that one yet. Okay, we're done. We need to switch back over, get back on topic. Nam, can you pull up the
No,
what?
I want to play this real quick because I know
Okay.
we're not going to talk about it, but John Thune was outed today, I think by Anna Paulina Luna, basically is saying that he's doing everything he can. He's not going to give the Save America Act a vote because he's trying to protect Republicans that are running for re-election because he thinks that they will actually lose re-election if they put this up for a vote. But Bernie Moreno, who, by the way, was my senator when I lived in Ohio. I have the guy's phone number. He's a good dude. He's helped me out a couple times on a couple of things. He posted this earlier, and I just think it's worth listening to. I don't know if you guys saw this or not yet, but it's worth listening to.
To go down to where I was born, Columbia, South America, and monitor the election down there. They don't allow mail-in balloting. And I asked the registrar, I said, well, why don't you allow people to vote by mail? There's some people who can't get to the polling locations, et cetera. And obviously we're in Columbia, so we're speaking Spanish. He turned to his aide and said, I don't think the senator is saying the right words. I'm not understanding his question. So I repeated it, and he looked at me quizzically, and he said, well, if you just mailed somebody a ballot without knowing who they were, who's receiving it, that would open the door to massive fraud. You'd have to be totally and completely insane to run an election that way. This is a country with the GDP of the size of LA, lecturing the United States of America on why our elections should be run better. And I think we should look at that as a moment of opportunity.
I mean,
Duh.
yeah.
Duh. Yes,
thought that was
even
interesting.
third world countries understand that if you don't verify people voting, it's probably pretty likely that Cuba is involved in stealing your elections along with Venezuela.
Wow.
It's just
I mean,
common sense. I mean,
It is.
I said this the other day. You know, people are like talking about disenfranchising voters and you have the right to vote and there can't be a poll tax and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but also everyone has a right to use the post office. And when I go to the post office to pick up a package, they know me. They know my face. They live in my teeny tiny small town. They know me. But I have to show my ID to pick up my package at the post office, and everyone has the right to use the post office. Like, none of this makes any sense at all whatsoever. You have to have an ID to exist in the United States.
It's not supposed to make sense.
It's supposed to be
it's
insulting
intended-
to our
Yes,
intelligence.
that's exactly right. You were supposed to be intellectually insulted by how stupid this whole thing truly is. And then the idea is just to get you to check out. Like, you know what? This is so dumb. This is whatever. I'm not even interested anymore. That's what they're trying to do.
My favorite argument to someone who says we can't have voter ID because it would disenfranchise voters is, and they talk about the Constitution and our rights. I always say, and they always bring up women and name changes and blah, blah, blah. Like, we get it. We've all had to change our names, some of us twice, because some of us have been married more than once. You have a right to self-defense. You have a right. You have a Second Amendment right. And they make you jump through hoop after hoop and fill out 4473s and show your driver's license, and your weight has to match the paper and the driver's license. Like, if you've lost weight, you can't write your actual actual weight on the paper. It has to match your driver's. Like, it's a whole mess to be able to defend yourself. And they talk about women. If you really cared about women, why are you making women jump through all these hoops to have a driver's license? There's name changes involved. You have a right to defend your life. And women are victims of violent crime at a higher rate than men. Rape, we're not on TikTok. Rape, women are victims of rape at a higher rate, yet that's okay. It's okay to have a driver's license and jump through all these hoops to be able to get a gun to be able to defend yourself, which is a God-given right to defend your life and your property. Why is it all of a sudden a problem when it comes to voting, unless it's only benefiting a certain group of people?
It's not. It's not a problem. They know it's not a problem. They want to be able to continue to have massive, and I do mean massive amounts of fraud in our elections. Right. It's not a small amount. It's not 400 votes. It's not an inconsequential amount that's not affecting the outcome. It is a massive amount of fraud in our elections. There's just no way around it.
SK, to answer your question, it is far more important to make it as hard as possible to defend your life against a criminal than it is to defend your country from a takeover to these people, because they're the ones who are taking the country over. All right, Mamdani, time to get to the socialist utopia that will end in destruction. Nam, can you play the clip Mamdani launches? This is a clip of him talking about the launch of his utopian fantasy, his 5 grocery stores.
Hold on, did I not add Mamdani?
Probably didn't pull that. Mamdani launches grocery stores. There you go. Pull that in here.
Oh,
get that.
How did I not have that in there?
So he gave a press conference today in which he came out and he started talking about this incredible idea that he's had, because, you know, it's not as though socialist grocery stores haven't been tried anywhere before, but this time, this guy's going to get it. He's going to figure it out. Go ahead.
All of this leaves too many New Yorkers feeling like groceries are out of reach. And that is frankly unacceptable, which is why city government is stepping in to make people's lives more affordable. Today, I am proud to announce a collection of essential staples that will be predictably 30% cheaper at all 5 of our city-run grocery stores. This core set of goods will include all fresh produce, meat, and seafood, along with 20 other essential items like cheese, milk, and bread. Here's how it will work. Once a month, our 5 city-run grocery stores will set prices for this core set of goods at 30% below typical retail prices. No exceptions, no gimmicks. The savings will last for the entire month. That means no weekly fluctuations nor sticker shock at the checkout line. Not for our seniors living on fixed incomes, nor for the parents who rely on a regular supply of apple slices to keep toddler tantrums at bay. Now, can we all see?
Pause for a second. Real quick. Just a note for people who are doing presentations like this. Don't ever use examples like this. It never goes the way you expect it to. Go ahead.
This incredible example of produce in my hand. Now you will see these plantains here. So for anyone wondering how much these beautiful plantains might cost, you can use this QR code or head to grocery.nyc to access our policy report. I'm going to demonstrate exactly what that means.
Okay. Yeah, we don't care. He's going to demonstrate. His QR code is going to work because he's an expert at technology, yada, yada, yada. So he then went on to talk about how they are getting ready to launch 5 grocery stores across the 5 boroughs. Now, I put a video out earlier today, and I had mentioned that this will start in 2029. Apparently, the first grocery store will roll out later this year, and then the second one, I believe, is in 2029. Nonetheless, there is a reason why Mamdani is using the rollout strategy that he's using, and it's pretty obvious. Does anyone in the chat want to take a wild guess why he's doing this?
Oh,
elections.
Elections. That's right. You see, because he has a utopian fantasy to build over the next 2.5 years. He has to continue to convince people through the politics of confiscation that if you just use the government resources to create a grocery store, it will bring prices down for everybody, until it doesn't. And what happens in 2029? Anyone know? He's up
He
for
can't run for
re-election.
office anymore.
No,
Oh, is he
he's up for re-election.
Oh,
Yeah.
2029.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
so building goodwill for a re-election campaign coming up in 2029 and then into 2030. By the end of 2034, I believe, he will be term limited out of New York City
Well,
mayor.
New York City will be bankrupt by 2034, so I
That's
don't think
exactly
it's
the
going to
point.
matter.
You see, building the utopian goodwill over the next couple years pretty much guarantees this guy will get reelected unless the citizens of New York City wake up and get really smart really fast. But by the time he's ready to leave office, New York City's grocery store economics will be completely and utterly dismantled. Folks, we have seen this before. We have multiple versions in the real world of where this has been tried. It's been tried in Kansas City, Missouri. It's been tried in Erie, Kansas. It's been tried in Florida, in Baldwin. It's been tried multiple times, and the pattern is very, very consistent. So if you guys don't mind, if you'll indulge me for a few minutes, I want to kind of walk you through what it's going to look like after the launch of these grocery stores. After you get beyond the utopian fantasy of cheap groceries for everybody, what does this actually look like by the time Mamdani is leaving office and going on to do bigger and better things for his political career and the DSA movement? Within the first 6 months, opening day is going to feel like a wind. You're going to have lines forming in these 5 different grocery stores. Parents are going to leave with cheaper groceries. They're going to get cheaper chicken, cheaper milk. The mayor's office project is going to look like an overwhelming success, and they're going to be able to claim that they save the average shopper $90 a month. Because remember, that's their goal. Save people $90 a month, $1,000 a year in their groceries. But 2 blocks away, the math is going to hit very, very different for small and independent grocery stores. A typical independent supermarket or a larger bodega might see 15 to 25% of its high volume staple sales shift almost immediately. Because what's going to draw people to the government sponsored grocery stores is going to be the promise of a cheaper necessities, this basket of goods he was talking about. But how many times when you walk into a grocery store, do you walk in, buy the necessities, and then you buy everything else you need at the same time? Nobody goes to one grocery store to get necessities and then to another grocery store for convenience. Convenient shopping is getting everything at the same place. So you'll notice in his speech today, he talked about how they are only going to discount the price of this basket of goods. And he made a promise. He said, this will not affect local businesses because we're not going to discount the price of anything else. And the thing that he is ignoring intentionally is the leakage of consumerism. What's going to happen to those surrounding businesses who typically see foot traffic? And when people go in to buy milk and eggs and cheese, they also buy cigarettes and alcohol and soda and chips and lotto tickets and all the other stuff that they take home with them. Those small businesses will see anywhere from 15 to 25% of its high volume staples completely shift almost immediately. In a business where net profit is anywhere from 1 to 3% of revenue, the volume loss that happens immediately is not a rounding error. This is the difference between covering payroll and cutting hours in the first 6 months. In the first 6 months, expect the earliest staff reductions. They'll let go a couple of part-time stockers or a shorter shift for a night cashier at one of the affected stores. Around the 5 sites, this could easily mean between 50 and 100 few weekly hours per neighborhood in the first wave. For the workers, many of them living in the same zip codes, those are real paychecks that shrink overnight. Consumers still feel the discount, so the trade-off is pretty much invisible in the first 6 months. Consumers feel good, people start to lose income as a result. And the local tax base shifts and reduces. The tax base that used to support those businesses is now going back into the government. In the first 12 months, a year in, The city stores are still drawing in traffic on the mandated cheap staples. Private operators respond in the only way that thin margin businesses can. They cut deeper and they raise prices elsewhere. So they may make decisions to stop selling those staples because they know people aren't buying them there. And the only way they can keep their business open is to raise prices on everything else. So now they have prices that have to go up in order to keep their businesses open. Sales of milk, eggs, and produce remain depressed at the nearby independents. To stay afloat, they have to start lifting prices anywhere from 10 to 15% on the non-discounted items. Coffee, the snacks, the household goods, the prepared foods that once subsidized those staples. A family that still shops the private store for convenience now pays more for the rest of their carts. The net household grocery bill may not fall as advertised once those offsets kick in. Your $90 a month savings is now gone in the first year. The job losses accelerate. A medium-sized supermarket that employed 40 people might trim to 32 or 35. A cluster of bodegas that each employed 8 to 12 people start running with skeleton crews. Conservatively, the 5 affected zones could shed between 200 and 400 grocery-related jobs in the first year. Cashiers, butchers, stockers, delivery helpers, many of them entry-level positions that people kept in the neighborhood. Those workers now face longer commutes or lower paying alternatives, which itself raises their transportation costs. For consumers who live more than a short walk away from one of the 5 stores, the savings start to require trade-offs. An extra subway ride or bus transfer, 15 to 30 a month in added transit or car costs for some households. That money has to come from somewhere, and often it's from the food budget itself. Within the first 24 months, this is where the tipping point starts to happen. 2 years in, the same pattern that we saw in Kansas City and in Erie starts to become visible. Some private stores have already closed or are sharply reducing fresh inventory. When a full service market that once employed 40 people shuts its doors, those 40 jobs vanish in a single announcement. Multiply that by a handful of closures and serious contractions around each of the 5 sites. And you're looking at several hundred direct job losses, plus the secondary hits to the distributors and the local suppliers who no longer get orders. The remaining private stores raise non-staple prices further, sometimes 10 to 15% on categories that still have to cover rent and labor. Shoppers who cannot easily reach a city store or who find the city shelves thin on a given day pay more for the same basket they used to buy around the corner. Households on tight budgets start making harder choices, less fresh produce, more shelf-stable fillers, and simply smaller overall purchases. Food insecurity does not disappear, it changes shape. Some families spend more time and money traveling farther for a full stop, eating into the very savings the program advertised. Year 3, this is where the hollowing out begins. By year 3, the cumulative job toll on the affected corridors is no longer subtle. In each of the 5 zones, losses the equivalent of 2 or 3 medium stores plus staffing cuts at a dozen smaller ones. The direct grocery employment loss can reach the low thousands when you include part-time and secondary effects. This is real income, folks, leaving the neighborhoods. Money that used to circulate at the local barber, the laundromat, and the after-school program is now gone. Transportation costs become a steady drain for more households. An extra 20 to 50 a month in transit or rideshare for families that lost their nearest full-service option is not trivial when rent and everything else is already high. Some simply reduce the quality and variety of what they eat. The 5 city stores, even if fully stocked, cannot replace the density of a private network that once put options on almost every other block. The result is more people making more trade-offs that look a lot like going without. Skipping the fresh items, stretching meals, accepting lower nutritional quality because the convenient, competitive private options have thinned out. They're gone. And then by year 5, after the ribbon cutting is over, the data starts to show the real story. Hundreds to a few thousand grocery jobs gone from the neighborhood nearest the city stores. Remaining private operators still open have permanently higher prices on many of the non-staples to compensate for the lost volume on the items of government discounts. A measurable share of households now spends more time and money simply getting to food, extra transit fares, longer trips, more planning, while the total number of reliable full-service options has declined. The 5 government stores remain propped up by ongoing subsidies because closing them would be politically costly, but they were never scaled properly to feed 8 million people. The private ecosystem that actually did the work of feeding the city has been selectively hollowed out in the name of a 30% discount that only a fraction of residents can conveniently use without new costs and new frictions. Do you understand that when you put a 30% discount on these items, you are immediately attacking the core fundamentals, the economics of these businesses that surround these stores? You're going to have a city government that doesn't have the same leverage with vendors and with suppliers that a network of 65,000 retailers have.
Right.
You're going to start to see much lower quality in food. And if it starts to look anything like you saw in Missouri or Kansas or Florida, you will have some of the worst types of products that you can find on the shelves rotting. The store in Missouri ended up shutting down after sinking $30 million into it after a few years because it smelled so bad in there and they couldn't come up with a way to solve the problem. The other 2 examples shut down completely in 4 to 5 years after dumping hundreds of thousands of dollars of loss on an annual basis. They couldn't solve the problem that free market economics solved. You're going to see food deserts. You're going to see hunger problems. You're going to see lines out the door. And you're going to start to see people regretting this decision almost immediately. But it'll take 3 to 5 years for the real impact to happen, for New York City finally realizes the damage that this guy just did to their local retailers. This guy, you look like you're going to say something.
I have a question.
Yep.
So if the profit margin for a grocery store is usually like 1%, how exactly does this work out? Because if they are discounting the certain basket of goods by 30%, that means that the city is going to have to make up the rest in order for that store to continue to maintain the profit margins. And isn't he saying that no one's going to lose money? How exactly is this going to work?
He's not. The city grocery stores don't have to earn a profit. That's at least not immediately. In the long run, it's going to cause serious issues when they have to figure out how to continue to subsidize it and pay for it. But they don't have to. They don't have the same requirement as the free market, as the private grocery stores that do. That's what Patriot Dad's saying, because they do have to maintain their profit margin. If they have to start cutting things and they have to start raising prices, which is why you're going to start to see the job losses and all. Mamdani's grocery stores, they don't have this problem. They just have taxpayers.
What Mamdani's planning to do to subsidize, he's not subsidizing the price of the groceries. He's not gonna fund the 30% discount directly. What he's planning to do initially is to do it by subsidizing the rental cost, the city taxes, the property taxes, subsidizing the input costs to the overall price of a product that a free market retailer has to include. That's where the 30% discount's coming from.
Okay, because I saw where he had like some 44-page thing, and you can go to the website and download it. I wasn't going to give him my email address and information, so I wasn't going to download it. But there's basically like an application. Like they're going to choose a store. It's not like the city is going to get an empty space and start a grocery store. They're going to take an already existing grocery store and they're going to say, okay, these goods once a month, we're going to tell you what price you can price this at. So price controls, which we know how well that worked. Hello, Carter. But I just am confused at how anyone on the planet can think this is a good idea.
Well, because people believe the utopian fantasy that he's going to come in and he's going to mandate a 30% discount on the price of these baskets of goods. And while that may be true, what the retailers that are volunteering to participate in this don't understand is that that 30% discount is going to be offset by the government's goodwill of saying, we will subsidize your rent, we'll subsidize your property taxes, we'll subsidize the money that you're paying in order for this space, in order for you to discount that. But what happens when the price of those things go up? Because he's also raising property taxes. Inflation is happening across the board in commercial properties. It's all over the place. So you will eventually get to a place where the retailer is going to have to say that 30% discount you're giving me is not enough to discount the products anymore. This is where the retailer is then going to have to say, I can't deliver you the highest quality produce because it costs more. Now I have to start finding lower cost, lower quality produce to stock the shelves. I'm going to have to start stocking the shelves with, instead of free range eggs, you're getting the basic white eggs that aren't good for you. Like, that's the type of decision these retailers will make in the first year in order to be able to support the 30% discount he's requiring. But that doesn't take into consideration the impact of all the surrounding businesses who are not getting the subsidy for the cost of doing business that these retailers that are going to participate do get.
Yeah.
It doesn't make
Listen.
sense because you're not wired this way.
Well, also, I lived through Tickle Me Elmo and Teddy Ruxpin, and watching people fist fight over discounts on like Black Friday.
Cabbage Patch Kids.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. When you're talking about people eating and the difference between starving and having food to eat, imagine the Tickle Me Elmo and the Teddy Ruxpin and the Cabbage Patch Kids and the Black Friday deals times this is your survival.
Yep.
You guys, this is not a good idea on any level. No matter how bad it gets, there are churches, there are people in your community that are willing to help you. You have GoFundMe, you have the entire internet at your fingertips. I mean, it is never a good idea to have the government in control of your nutrition.
Well, somebody brought this up in the questions that he had to answer at his press conference, and here was his response.
It sounds like what you're essentially offering these purveyors of grocery services is you cover the property tax, you build out the building, you cover any sort of recurring rent, but they have to bring in the food, discount at a certain amount, high quality of wages. I mean, these are millions of dollars effectively shuffling back and forth. So I'm wondering why not just spend these millions of dollars and give to agencies like the Campaign Against Hunger or City Harvest, or, just direct established food programs.
We see in this city an opportunity to take an all of the above approach. We are going to continue to work with incredible partners like the ones that we're here with today, as well as ensure that food pantries across the 5 boroughs can flourish. And what we have seen is that far too often, when it comes to city government's approach to delivering on affordability for groceries, there's always been the question of intermediaries, whatever it may be. And we are excited to deliver directly to New Yorkers that lower cost of essential goods.
Does anyone have any clue what the hell that guy just said?
No.
This
He
answer
said he wants food pantries to flourish. I heard
This is-
that. Why would you want food pantries in an utopia? Food
This is the
pantries wouldn't
answer.
have to exist.
Okay, this is the response from somebody who has never asked the question, then what? When thinking through his policies. Like, what happens when you take $70 million that you're going to be investing in these failed experiments away from other pretty well established food programs? What happens then? Well, we just feel really good about the idea, is basically his response. This is what happens when you have people who don't bother to ask the questions, what then, when they propose these ideas.
And you're talking about areas where people don't have cars. You're talking about areas that are densely populated. And you're talking about one store in each borough. Again, Tickle Me Elmo, Teddy Ruxpin, Black Friday. How There
Bo-
is no amount of mental gymnastics that can make this make sense in my brain.
Boggs chips, you will not be allowed to bulk buy anything in these stores. This is where rationing comes in. If you start to create food deserts in this utopian society, and you have a limited amount of resources for 8 million people who need this basket of goods, you will be told how many and what and when you're allowed to buy it. And they still will not be able to provide enough product on the shelves to feed everybody. This is what happens in these experiments. It happens every single time. And we know how long it takes. It'll take just long enough for Zoran Mamdani to exit the New York mayor's office and leave the problem for somebody else to fix. That's why he's choosing rolling out one of these, because the first one will probably be somewhat successful.
I
The
think
second one
Dawn.
What?
Oh, sorry.
No,
I
you're
think
good.
Dawn. I think Dawn Connors. Yes.
Yeah, Don, I'm sorry to say, but I don't know if you heard the 5-year slide into bread lines, but that's what's coming for Manhattan, unfortunately. It's going to take some time. He will be able to claim victory going into his next reelection and probably the first year and a half of his second term, and it will quickly start to fall apart. You will find less options at your bodegas and local grocers that you usually go to, and those options you do find will be more expensive. And eventually those stores will have to close up shop because they can't afford to hire people. They can't afford to staff the hours, or their hours will be drastically reduced. Instead of staying open until 9 p.m., they'll close at 4 p.m. because they can't pay anybody else. And eventually you will see hundreds of local mom and pop shops around the corner are gone. And if you want food, you're going to have to go wait in line with everybody else.
Yeah, because Wall Street's moving to Y'all Street in Texas.
Yeah. This is,
So I hope
a large part of me is like, I know they're Americans, I know they're fellow American citizens, but a large part of me is like, you know what? I want them to feel it. I want them to feel the pain of what they're doing.
Yep. Nam, can you pull up the Jesse Waters
You've
video?
depressed
We'll tie this
everybody
up.
in the comments.
I'm
Patriot
good.
Dad.
Good. That is
everybody
my
in the
plan.
comments is like, we're depressed.
Folks.
We have to go now.
Folks,
We can't stay here.
Only you can prevent communism. And the way you
Way to be
prevent
a party
communism
pooper, Patriot
is
Dad.
you start to ask people that are pushing the politics of confiscation, you start to ask them one simple question. Then what? What happens next? What happens when local retailers can't compete with the government-sponsored shop? What happens next?
Well, they'll say that's too bad, and they shouldn't be able to stay in business.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Then you're going to have to go wait in line at the one store that you're able to walk into, and you might be able to find fresh produce there. Most likely not, but you might be able to.
Limit one, please.
You get one. All right, can you pull up the Jesse Waters video? Because this tells you everything you need to know about this guy and exactly what his plans are for New York City.
You own property in his town, he knows exactly where you live. The city just posted a searchable list of every homeowner on the hook for his new tax. Names, addresses, 30,000 of them. A socialist mayor handing out a Rolodex of the rich in a city that just watched a CEO get gunned down on the sidewalk. Sounds like a hit list. You got a problem with it? Go protest. It's what the city's there for anyway.
I think one of the bedrocks of our city is protest. It is something that has been a part of what makes our city so special, that New Yorkers can express themselves whether they are in support or in opposition, no matter on whatever topic.
Protest? The city runs on capitalism and cocktails.
And apparently it's got a whole bunch of patriots in it too, because Don says
Why
this
is
city
he so
is absolutely
sweaty?
because
You think he has boob sweat? Because look
Probably.
how sweaty that guy was in that clip.
Don, I love this for you, for the city, and I hope to God that this is true. I will pray that this is true. The city is absolutely revolting against this mayor. Wait until he tries to step foot in ground zero at 9/11. We have patriots here. Y'all better stand up and do something, because this guy's getting ready to destroy your city.
Where were those patriots when this guy got elected? Because like nobody showed up to vote except for a bunch of socialists. That's it.
That's right.
Where,
All right,
where were they?
We got 20 minutes to listen to Donald Trump trash the media. and I have a feeling
Yeah.
it's going to take us longer than 20 minutes because I want to laugh.
Well, real
along the way.
quick, I do want to play this video because there was a lot of traffic going on, at least on X and over on TikTok, about the Fauci files, right? And what's come out in Fauci's diary. I mean, there's so much, but I did catch RFK Jr., Secretary of HHS, was doing an interview, and he was talking about Fauci. And I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but apparently Fauci took the jab. I think he took a very public one, and he ended up having a cardiac issue shortly after that he simply didn't report. So he very likely could have had an adverse reaction to this thing. It was a cardiac infarction. And
did you say infarct?
Infarction. It's a thing. It's where your heart starts beating.
That's
in
what
a
it's
weird
called.
way.
I believe you.
It's an infarction.
Sometimes
But
I
listen to
revert
this.
to being a
This blew my mind. Absolutely blew my
Like
mind.
all
Listen
the
to this.
time.
This massive dichotomy between what he was saying privately and what he was simultaneously saying publicly. He says in his diaries on January 30th that the Wuhan lab could not possibly be the source of the virus.
Oh, we know that was all false.
And then, well, we all know it, but now his diary, he says he knew that, and yet for 2 years he told us that was.
But he was given a pardon prospectively from the last administration. We don't know if it was an auto pen pardon. It doesn't really matter for legality purposes. But Americans want to know, a lot of them, is there going to be any accountability for trillions of dollars lost, children's education destroyed, and public health industry reputation shattered?
Yeah, and millions of people injured. You know, he lied about masks, he lied about social distancing, he lied about the transmission, he lied about natural immunity, he lied about the capacity, as you just said, of the vaccine to prevent infection. He got vaccinated, a very, very public press conference in January of 2020. And then 5 months later, he had, and this is the first time that we knew this from the diary, he had a pulmonary infarction, which is one of the adverse events that NIH, CDC, and FDA said are expected from the vaccine. He never told anybody. He got treated for it privately by the best doctors in America. At the same time, he was telling everybody that that was not an adverse event.
Is there anything else we're missing from these diaries?
That's wild.
That is
absolutely wild. This guy should be in prison.
Crazy.
Well, listen, everybody needs to call their state AG, because even though Dr. Fauci was pardoned by Biden, autopin, whatever, he can still be charged at the state level for these crimes.
That's gonna be the only way it's gonna happen.
State level.
It's the only way it's gonna happen. This guy, reading some of this guy's diary is just disgusting. The things that he was saying, the amount of time he spent lauding his own fame because of what he was doing will make your stomach turn. He spends on almost most of his entries, he spends one line talking about the number of deaths, and then he spends the rest of his diary talking about how awesome he is. Now, you would know the definition of an infarction. Can we get to Donald Trump, please? I've been waiting for this all day because I still have not watched this whole thing.
I haven't watched it either, and I bet you roasted these people.
Yeah, pull it up. We'll stop it as we go because I got some funny interludes I want to add to the ones.
Trump fighting alien. Trump top 10 jokes in the White House.
Top 10 jokes in the White House. Here we go. The White House Correspondents' Center. If you guys remember, the first one was interrupted by a radical leftist who tried to assassinate people. So Donald Trump went back in front of the White House Correspondents Group and wrecked them all, and they were super pissed about it.
I just want to say, imagine the size of the sack on this dude when you were in a room and someone literally tried to assassinate you, and you're like, we'll just schedule it for another day. And then you show up.
It's a rain out. I'm surprised that one of these people in the audience didn't try to take a shot at him as how pissed off they were when they walked out of this place. Like,
how does this guy sit?
Well, that's why he wears the comfortable pants and the diapers, just to protect his big balls. All right,
something.
let's go,
'cause
folks. We're going to interrupt
that's
this
not normal.
as we see for trademark issues, and also because it's hilarious, and I'm sure we're going to have some funny jokes. SK will probably not be able to hold herself in. Here we go.
Wow, that was very beautiful, but this has not been an easy evening, all these awards. Do I have a say in those awards, all those awards? But it's great to be back at a place that I know very well because I built it. And I'm very proud of it because I built it for $2.9 billion less than the Federal Reserve building, which is a lot smaller, by the way. Figure that one out. But I am delighted to be here at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Amazing people, a lot of people that I like. Some I don't like it all, but I respect most of them. I must say that you do a great job, amazing job, and it's an honor. As I said 3 months ago, the show must go on. We were backstage, and we both wanted to just have it go on, whether it was 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, it didn't matter. But in the end, it made more sense to do it the way we're doing it. And we had a great news conference at the White House, in a very important room. And you did very well. I think we all did very well. It was a hell of an evening, I can tell you that. Won't soon be forgotten. And I think a lot was learned from that evening. A tremendous amount was learned about security and about other things, the dangers of
He's
what
getting
we
to
all
the
do.
jokes quickly, folks. Just be patient.
But just like my presidency, the second time is always better. It's always better. And the third time will be better yet.
That set them off.
I'm only kidding.
No, he's not.
But Caroline may have one of the hardest jobs in the White House. She has to deal with all of you all of the time. And you can be very difficult. You can be very, very difficult people. But I'm probably being a little bit oversensitive. Sometimes I really do think that some of you don't like me. In fact, I read a report, I get 93% negative publicity. 93. So how the hell did I win the election by so much? Think of it. I don't think that's true. I can't believe it's 93. In the 80s, maybe, but not 93. But this place is really the largest group of Trump derangement syndrome people ever put together at one time, I suspect. But I want to personally congratulate CNN's Caitlin Collins.
Oh, God, here we go.
On receiving her award. It was all about me. It's a fake. She shouldn't get the award. It was a fake, but I didn't mind. I said, Caitlin, congratulations. But it was fake. There's no question about it. But she's a young, attractive woman. She never smiles. I said, Caitlin, do you ever smile? Smile. You have a nice position. You're at CNN Fake News. You should be a happy person. So smile, Caitlin. Just smile. But we attack, and I thought Caitlin had really made it big with a major new sponsorship, but then I informed her that it wasn't her on the Bud Light can. It was Dylan Mulvaney.
Hold on, pause.
Dylan Mulvaney cost Bud Light $35 billion in market cap.
Did you guys see that she responded to him? Did you see that?
No,
You
but-
got to put it in there. You have to put it in there. There's a response. Play the response real quick.
Where is it?
It's in it's the weird lettered and numbered video. It doesn't have the
this
name
one?
on. Yeah. So
Okay,
here's the
hold on,
response
hold
from.
on.
But
Go ahead.
you
SK.
guys,
SK.
has Caitlin Collins and Dylan Mulvaney ever been seen in the same room?
I don't know.
No.
I don't think so.
No.
Here's her response.
No.
real quick.
Just asking questions here.
Yeah, we're just
guys.
asking questions here, folks, right?
So this is her response. It's super quick.
Breaking news. Donald Trump just compared me to Dylan Mulvaney. I am a serious journalist. How dare he? This is an absolute outrage.
I mean, she's pissed. And for the life of me, I don't understand what the outrage is. I mean, it's not like she looks like Caitlin Collins. I don't understand. Like, why do people get these two confused? That's Caitlin. Wait, that's not Caitlin Collins. Wait, hold on. Caitlin, hold on. We need to put this on the big screen. That's Caitlin Collins. That's Dylan Mulvaney. What? Hold on. Why are people so upset? It's not like they look alike.
Wait, hold on. We've got a better picture. Hold on, real quick.
Okay,
We've got a better
yeah.
picture.
That's racist, Patriot Dad. Is it just
got a
because
better
they're
picture.
both white?
CNN's.
There. I mean, that is Caitlin Collins there in that little dress and the Bud Light thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, it looks.
Yeah.
That's.
I mean,
wait, no, that's not. I don't. Okay, I can't tell the difference.
Okay.
That was actually a pretty
Racist.
damn funny joke.
You're
All right, keep going.
racist.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
All right, Trumpy, let's go.
That was the worst commercial ever made, by the way. For those few people that want to hear that, most people don't care, but I would. I wouldn't want to hire Dylan anytime soon. I hope that everyone finally got to enjoy their entire, very delicious beef tenderloins, very special beef. And I want you all to know that Bobby Kennedy, who's right here, personally ran over the cow in his car.
Here's what comes off of
Oh,
strawberries
come
when you
on.
drop the spice in the water.
Yeah, hold on,
from the
folks.
store and
doesn't
already
pay
rinsed under
for
the tap.
YouTube
But within 10
Premium?
minutes, the water changes.
Our
What floats to
Patriot
the
Source
surface will change
podcast
how you feed your family.
does
My friend.
not pay for YouTube.
And he cut it up and he brought it here for you to eat tonight. So it's very fresh. And Bobby also suggested an appetizer featuring his favorite cut of male raccoon roadkill. But we drew the line at that, Cheryl. We said, no, we're not going to do that. We're not doing that. We love Bobby. I'll tell you, it is a piece of work. You think it is fun, but he is a very different kind of a person, I will tell you. But he has what it takes, and he's smart, and he loves the country, and he wants people to be made to feel good. You agree with that, Bobby? He wants people to feel
Can
good.
we pause for
And
1 second?
he's doing a fantastic job. Thank you, bro.
Because speaking of size of sack and balls of steel, that guy right there, RFK, after the original Correspondence Dinner, when that guy was trying to like assassinate people, his kids were like terrified and texting their mom and dad in their group texts, asking them if they were okay and like freaking out. And, you know, his wife is like explaining to them what all happened and like it was so scary, but they grabbed us and they got us out and all these things. And RFK pipes up and he's like, I'm hungry. I didn't get to eat my food. Like, he's just like so calm. He's like,
I
yeah,
would've been too.
I'm hungry.
I was going to eat that. What happened? My food's. They took my food. All right, here we go.
Bobby, thank you. We can joke all we want, but thank you. Don't ever wrestle, Stephen. You'll be in big trouble. But I say, Stephen, let me ask you, did the press call? No, sir. You know, when I was a developer, I get a call every half an hour. For whatever reason, I always got disproportionate press. So I said, Stephen, nobody called? No, sir. 2 hours later, I say, hi, Steve, how are we doing? Everything good? Anybody call? No, sir, no press calls. I said, I'm president. Nope, they never call. So this went on for about a week. I'd say, Caroline, did the press call? No, sir, no calls. I said, nothing. It's over a week. I haven't received a call. So I said, you know what I'll do? I'm going to give the press my phone number. That was the stupidest thing I ever did. I'm getting a call every 3.7 minutes. Stephen, I don't know where the hell you've been, but the press calls, I'm getting calls, ring, ring. I was with somebody today. They said, I've never heard a phone ring as much. It's fresh. Now, I look at the thing and usually just delete, delete, delete. Every once in a while, it'll be one of the people in this room that I like, and I'll pick it up. Like this one right here calls me on occasion, right? She'll call me and she says, hello, sir. How are you? We want to talk about some horrible subject, like a horrible, depressing subject. I say, Jackie, I don't want to talk about it. Congratulations, however, on your new marriage. But I don't want to talk about it. But it's true. And people call me now. And so for weeks I go, no calls. And I learned then that both of them, they feel that I'm doing a great job and they feel I'm above it all. And that no person, hundreds of people call no person, is good enough to talk to Trump. And so we don't even bother telling you. That's not the way it works, Caroline. You have to let me know because sometimes I do like to speak to the press, but now I have the best system I've ever had. It rings, and just so you understand, you're much better at putting your name, because if there's no name, I just can't do that. You know, I pick up every once in a while. Hello, I'm from Reno, Nevada. We're a startup paper. We're calling us the Reno Express. I said, do you believe I'm the president of the United States? Mr. President, could I have your views on Iran? And I just hang up. No, I get the craziest calls. I mean, some of them, my wife said, I can't believe you do this. This is a hell of a way to live. But sometimes they get calls from very important. Sometimes I can straighten out stories that are going to be fake, and I can make them from a fake story to a good story. I always find that when you don't speak to the press, you always get a bad story. When you do speak to the press, you have a shot at getting a good story. Oh, look. No, look, if I were a reporter, and let's say I'm a big reporter, I work for the failing New York Times, or I work for, well, I don't know, do they ever come to these dinners? Didn't they cancel out a long time ago? Big mistake. For example, under my administration, a once feared and powerful regime that relentlessly attacked America has finally been toppled. Their former leaders have been removed, and they're now being run by a gay dictator facing internal divisions. But I, for one, wish Barry Weiss all the best at CBS News. Actually, everyone's looking.
Stop. He wasn't talking about Iran. He was talking about CBS and Barry Weiss, a gay dictator. That was funny. That was funny.
Dude, you guys, I don't understand why the left hates this guy so much. You can disagree with his policy all you want, but you have to admit that he's the funniest president we've ever had. This dude is so underrated because he's hilarious.
You want to know why they hate him so much? Because he followed up the White House Correspondents' Dinner with this. They hate this man because they know that he is far more like JFK than any of them could ever be. They hate him. The amount of vitriol that happened on social media today because of this image that Donald Trump posted is why they hate him. They can't stand the fact that Donald Trump is far more like JFK in his re-implementation of the American system than they will ever be. They hate it because JFK would agree with Donald Trump and not with them, and they can't stand it.
Do we want to keep going with that?
JFK would have been a Republican today, for the record.
That's absolutely. Was that AI? I don't know. I mean, look, very well, Donald Trump is thought to have been a time travel. It very well could be a real picture that he's just.
Well, not only that, isn't JFK still alive somewhere? I mean, that's
no,
what we're
it's
told all the
RFK.
time.
JFK Jr. is still alive.
Oh, JFK Jr. is still alive. That's right. Yeah, was that AI? There's no way to know because the rumors are that Donald Trump is a time traveler. So that's the rumor. So it could be.
So this was going on in Super Chat land in the comments while we were watching that. The New York election was absolutely stolen, according to Coach Kimberly Renee. 7% of voters don't exist. 10% of voters were not in New York in 2025, and 7% have fake Social Security numbers.
Shocker.
That is.
I don't believe you.
A quarter of the votes that were cast.
I don't believe you. Lies. It's all made up, Kimberly. I don't believe you.
So one more video real quick. Stephen Miller, I don't think you guys saw this. I pulled this up myself.
I haven't seen this.
And so we got to end on Stephen Miller because he's probably one of the greatest. Ready to go.
Have always had, of course, is the uniform and total support of the crazy leftist media in this country. Right? They've always had the support of the big broadcast networks, the print newspapers, and a large portion of
all your friends at CNN and MSDNC.
And a large portion of cable too, Sean. Exactly. But the American people are learning, and you see it reflected in the polls. Democrats' approval has never been lower, and in large part because President Trump has exposed them for who they are. They're not liberal. They're not just left-wing. They're radical left, crazy communists. They're opening up government-run grocery stores to undercut mom-and-pop stores. They are talking about abolishing the prison and jail system in this country so that everybody lives at the mercy of the predators in the street. No borders, no ICE, no police, no law enforcement, taxes through the roof, regulate companies out of existence, regulate energy out of existence, grind the economy into dust. You'll be lucky if you have a windmill, and that's about it, Sean.
All right. So what was he talking about there with the poll numbers? Did you guys see this Harry Enton segment on CNN?
Yep.
So let's wrap on this, and then just so everybody kind of leaves on a
she's got the
good
cat.
note. And a good note. Oh my God! Hi, Kitty.
Guys, he was trying to bust the door down. He sounded like he was 50 pounds. The entire door was shaking.
All that effort to get you to pay attention to him, and now he's trying to get away from you. That is a cat for you right there. That's a cat.
Well, he's like a dog in a cat suit. He doesn't count as a cat, okay? Because I don't like cats at all.
And yet you're owning one.
All right, Harry Enton, folks.
I would argue the biggest red flag that Republicans, or excuse me, Democrats have, the biggest red flag, look at this. It's apathy, not believing that Democrats can change anything. Because the impacts of Democratic policies on your cost of living, only 41% say help, hurt, or wouldn't change it. The clear majority, nearly 3 in 5, 59%. So, look, these are all the red flags. If, in fact, Democrats can't take back control of either the House and or the Senate, and if Trump can stop them, this is what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, shocker. The American people don't want confiscation. Shocker. It's not that hard to figure out. Stephen Miller lays out the case for what these folks have become. And I'll just add, on top of all the things that he mentioned that are going to happen to you, bread lines, shortages, rotten food, food deserts, ridiculously high taxes, jobs are going to go disappear, retail economics destroyed, real estate confiscated. That's what's coming. That is what they have in store for you.
On that note,
all right, folks.
See you guys on Thursday.
We will see you Thursday, 9:30
Good night,
Eastern.
guys.
Have a great couple
Teddy
of days.
says good night.
Every flag they raised left a nation in scars. Count the cost in bread lines, in walls and in bars. So we bring you the truth, and we're bringing the fight. This is the Patriot Source, holding the line. Only you can prevent it. Only you hold the line, never bend it. Never again, we won't back down. Only you can hold communism down. Not here, not now, not ever. Not here, not now, not ever. One voice, one line, one stand. Freedom, don't kneel. It commands. Only you.